I'm Mark Ramsey, and I'm sitting across from Jim Kerr. Jim Kerr is the Vice President of Strategy at Triton Media. Hello, Jim.
Hey, Mark.
Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
As you can see, we're in beautiful Southern California on the shore of the Pacific Ocean in my backyard. Thank you for coming to my backyard, Jim.
Anytime.
Hopefully,
Anything for you, Mark.
some of my slaves will come by and serve us shortly.
I'm waiting for the peeled grapes.
Jim, you see a vantage point of the radio industry that a lot of people don't see, because your job really is to look out on the horizon and figure out where we're headed and how to get there. What do you see out on the horizon for radio now?
Well, there's a couple of ways to answer that. One is in terms of what technologies and systems and new trends are on the horizon. The other is where is the industry heading in terms of adapting to those technologies on the horizon. Where do you want me to answer that?
I think in terms of what radio stations can and should be doing going forward.
Well, one of the things they're doing well right now is they're investigating at various degrees of success ways to engage with the audience on, and that's an important step. And as they continue to do that and do it more effectively, their impact in digital will be greater and greater. And that goes across all media, whether it's mobile, online, as well as on their broadcast. But it's when you bring those three together where I think is where it finally works well. And that's where I think we're still yet to get there, and that's where the horizon needs to be. So when you have all the digital tools that engage with the audience, and you have your broadcast, which engages with the audience in a kind of a one-to-many side, and you can integrate them all together in a strategic and cohesive way, so that your broadcast is talking about things you're doing online. Online has an impact in terms of what's going on in the broadcast. Mobile, you can take it all with you. You can interact in the same kind of way. You can take it out to your social networks. When all of those are working together, you've got this beautiful symphony of engagement that it should be very monetizable.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. In terms of the monetization potential, do you see 2010 as kind of a breakout year for that, or is 2010 going to be more evolutionary in terms of that?
I think it's going to be more evolutionary. We're not at the point yet where I think radio is comfortable enough with all the tools to sit back and say, I know how to make money by creating digital events around actual live remote or those kinds of things. So it is going to be evolutionary. We're at a point now where it has to be a little bit more quick. We have to see monetization happen earlier, or we get things like Peter Smith said about, is it a hobby or is it an actual business? It is, I believe it is a business, but we have to start getting to the point where it is more business-like and not, investigatory.
Where are we now on the experience gap? Because in my observation, that's kind of a real problem, is that people just don't have the knowledge to exploit these tools the way they need to, because they're accustomed to being in that kind of static radio environment year after year, same old thing.
The trouble is it's a complex question, because on one level it can really come down to the radio personnel are incentivized to be good on the radio. In a lot of ways they're not incentivized to be good on digital, so it becomes something that's distracting them from their core job. It shouldn't be a distraction, it should be part of their job. So on a very basic level, that still remains an issue. On another level, there is what you're talking about in terms of a knowledge gap. The good news is so many of these tools, as they're being developed, whether it's something like a CMS on your radio station that can become easier to work with, or whether it's a video platform that makes it very easy for someone to upload video from a remote or things like that, the kind of learning curve for all of these things is becoming much, much lower. So that the kind of knowledge gap, I think, is increasingly going to be an excuse rather than reality.
Yeah, it seems to me that way already. It seems if you go around the internet, you can find people with a lot more knowledge expressed, one individual, than a whole radio station full of people.
Well, you're right. There is definitely an element of excuse making, because the learning curve isn't that great if you put your mind to it.
Mm-hmm. Now, part of what you're describing relates to kind of how we conceive of what our job is as broadcasters, right? How do you see that evolving into 2010 and beyond? These digital tools could be looked at as icing or part of the cake.
Well, so much of the revenue is moving to digital that you really can't ignore the fact that you have to be in that space. I mean, it's nice to say that we're going to get incremental growth, and if we circle the wagons in the terrestrial space, we'll be fine. But that's a non-growth move, and it's really not the way to look at the future for a business. So, I'm kind of trying to think back to what your question was, but basically you have to start moving in that direction. There's just no choice.
Yeah,
And
my question was, in terms of how we conceive of what radio is, that's got to be changing.
Yeah,
right?
it absolutely is. I mean, if not, it's a stagnant industry, you know, and so we have to redefine the roles of programming. We have to redefine the roles of sales. None of these are easy. No one's saying that it's going to be easy, but it has to be done. I mean, you have to have a program director who knows how to not just go out and talk on Facebook and Twitter and have the jocks interact, because those, while they kind of increase the connection with the audience, which is a very tangible value in terms of helping the broadcast, there's ways to monetize that by moving these people into your database. And the database is a very valuable thing in terms of monetizing a radio station over and above a spot.
It's funny, I had an experience where a client was using Facebook ads to promote their Facebook fan page, and they were proud to talk about how many impressions their advertising for their Facebook fan page had generated on Facebook. And I thought, they don't realize that this is exactly the business they're supposed to be in, and here they're handing it over to Facebook.
Yeah, it's you know, I wrote about this recently on Radio Info, where we have this kind of, you know, we talked about how the tools are pretty simple these days, but the fact is a lot of these professionals don't have the tools. You know, I've talked at conventions to radio professionals, and they'll be like, I'd love to easily upload video to my website, or I'd love to host a chat, or I'd love to just, you know, upload a photo, something as simple as that, but they can't, so they go to Facebook because it's really the only strategy that's open to them. And to me, that's a real tragedy. You know, if you've got personnel who are just relentlessly piled on for not getting it, you know, program directors and the street level people are, you know, they need to move over to digital, they need to move over. And when I talk to them and I hear that, hey, we want to do that, but we can't, and it's not excuse making, they just don't have the tools. There's not a simple way to upload a photo to the website and things like that. So they go to Facebook, or they go to Twitter, and or YouTube, and they put all of their efforts there. And as in the absence of a strategy, it's a pretty good one, but in terms of monetizing a radio station in the grand view of where you want this kind of unified vision, what I mentioned earlier, it's completely the wrong thing to do. You want to take all of those interactions and bring them over to your radio station so they're playing on your playing field. I mean, you originate content on your site, you don't take it elsewhere.
Okay. What, in terms of best practices, what do you think we're going to see in 2010 for kind of the superior stations delivering fraction of their revenue from digital? What's that number going to look like?
Wow.
That percentage. Right now, it's what, between 5 and 10, typically, for the good ones?
That's very good ones. It's
very good ones?
Between 5 and 10. And I don't think we're going to see, you know, we'll see incremental growth there. I think if you have a station that's doing outstanding, it might go north of 10. Just because of the fact that the machinery that's in place to kind of sell those either isn't in place or it's just evolving. I don't think we're going to see a hockey stick of digital growth from radio because the commitment hasn't been made to get to the hockey stick direction.
So would you say that's an important goal?
Absolutely.
Making that kind of commitment?
Yeah, exactly. You know, you can't, you know, it's nice to think that everything online is cheap, therefore we don't have to invest that much into it, and we're going to see, you know, magnitude of return of, you know, we'll put $1 in and get $100 out. There's an element of truth to the efficiency of being online, but the bottom line is you got to put effort into it and resources to get any kind of return.
There's a saying among comics that a joke only works if you commit to it. So let's hope that we in radio do likewise.
No,
Jim Kerr,
Thank you,
Vice
Mark.
President of Strategy, Triton Media, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.